Let's compare, let's contradict, let's differentiate for exam, let's trash, let's gross, let's penetrate, and let's emphasize on the specific point, the difference between spermatozoa and oocytes. So first, spermatogonium or oogonium begins the process. What is happening? Oogonium will now be converted to primary spermatocyte, mitotic cell division. This will now yield to what? They will now yield to 4 spermatozoa. The end of spermatogenesis is to produce 4 spermatozoa with a haploid cell. Why the end of oogenesis? You don't have any end oh. Remember, you have not completed any cycle since they gave birth to you, so far as you have not get pregnant in your life before. So the end of oogonium or the end of oogenesis is menstruation, unless there is sperm inside your body. And when there is sperm, that is when you have only complete your oogenesis. Your oogenesis have not been completing. Just allow one this month. So at the end of this oogenesis, you end up forming only one egg. It's only one oocyte that is produced, one fertilized, only one sperm is involved. That is when you are going to form one ovum or one fertilized matured ovum. Why in spermatocytosis, what is happening? We are forming 4 haploid sperm or spermatozoa. Let's go there, which I've already explained. Spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Cytoplasm is divided equally. So in spermatogenesis, the cytoplasm is divided equally. In oogenesis, the cytoplasm is not divided equally. It is unequal because we are forming a polar body and an oocyte, which is secondary oocyte. So the polar body has little amount of cytoplasm. For this reason, the cytoplasm is not shared equally. So this results to 4 haploid spermatozoa. This results to only one female large oocyte egg. Only one oocyte egg is produced. And this one oocyte, I'm emphasizing this because this is exam question whenever sperm is introduced. When sperm is not introduced, the oocyte will die off and is secreted out of the fallopian tube. What next? The genetic housekeepers. To eliminate one half of the diploid chromosome set produced by meiotic division, leaving behind a haploid cell. So during meiotic cell division, we are trying to produce haploid cell that will fuse with the haploid sperm to form a zygote. So what's now happening? We now form a polar body. We form a cell called a polar body which does not have cytoplasm. It has only little amount of cytoplasms, and they will not be able to sustain this cell. What will happen? They will now die off. They will die. So at the end of oogenesis, you only have 2 polar bodies. But in a case they can twist your brain and they say we form 3 polar body. You only see 3 polar body when the first polar body from the primary spermatocyte have divided to form 2 polar body from with another polar body you now have in your secondary spermatocytes. So don't confuse that. You only have 2 polar body at the end of fertilization. You only have 2 polar body. So the 3 polar body is only when the first polar body have divided in the first primary spermatocyte. So a polar body is a small haploid cell containing chromosome. They contain chromosome, the haploid chromosome, but very little amount of what? Cytoplasm. It is the cellular trash bag for extra sets of genes. They frequently die and degenerate by apoptosis. Apoptosis is what? Cell death. When your cell keep on dying, we call it what? Apoptosis. So meiotic errors in polar body formation can be an indicator of what? Malfunctioning of the zygote. So when your zygote is malfunctioning, it can lead to so many things. Let's go. Let's keep on contradicting. So what is the difference between oogenesis and spermiogenesis? So the first thing you have to take note is spermiogenesis continues throughout lifetime. Some people only might stop at 60 years old, or at 60 it will reduce. Maybe your father can be ejaculating 500 million sperm to your mother vagina. But when your father starts getting old, he will start ejaculating little amounts of spermatozoa. It can be 50 millions of sperm, it can be 100, but it is now reduced from 500 million. So oogenesis stop at menopause. So oogenesis stop at menopause, and menopause is from 45 to 55 years old. Oogenesis stop at menopause. Menopause, it begins before birth and stop at menopause, but spermatogenesis only begins at puberty and continues throughout the lifetime. So let's go to our table. Our table is the difference between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. First begins at puberty. Spermatogenesis begins at puberty. Oogenesis begins in the fetus, in the fertile life. It's before birth, begins inside the woman uterus. So it is continuous through the lifetime. It is arrested. It is arrested. It stops and lifelong of production. It ends at menopause. And lastly, millions per day. So a man is able to secrete 500 million per day, while in oogenesis only one egg, one fertilized egg is what secreted, is formed. Only one egg is ovulated per month. Only one egg is ovulated.